Hello everyone, welcome back to Dark Delights. Today I want to share with you a story that taps into one of my favorite genres, psychological horror. There's something uniquely terrifying about the way these stories explore the dark recesses of the human mind. The paranoia, the inner demons, and the blurred lines between reality and madness. Tonight I'll be sharing the first half of a chilling tale called The Shadow Curse. It's a story about a man named John Grayson who returns to his childhood home after the sudden death of his mother. What he discovers there will lead him into a web of secrets and shadows. So settle in, dim the lights, and join me as we dive into the first part of The Shadow Curse. Believe me, you won't want to miss what comes next. My name is John Grayson. It's been 20 years since I last set foot in Gray Hollow. The town seems unchanged, as if time itself fears to tread here. The old house, my childhood home, looms ahead, a relic of forgotten memories and buried secrets. Mother is gone now. Her sudden death has drawn me back to this place I once called home, a place that holds more than just memories. It holds whispers, shadows, and a legacy of madness that haunts the Grayson name. I found her journals today, pages filled with frantic scrawls about a family curse, a shadow that preys on the firstborn sons of our line. Each entry grows more desperate, more incoherent, until the final words, "The attic holds the key. End the madness, John." I never believed in her stories. In the darkness she claimed followed us. But standing here, in this house where every creak and shadow feels alive, I can't shake the feeling that something is watching, waiting. Tomorrow, I'll climb those stairs to the attic. I have to know what drove her to the brink. I have to face whatever she left behind, for my sake and for hers. The townsfolk avoid my gaze, whispering among themselves. They remember the Graysons, remember my mother's descent into insanity. Sarah, my childhood friend, warns me to leave, to forget the past. But how can I? The shadows have already started to creep in, and I fear there is no escape. The attic waits. The secrets of the Grayson curse wait. And in the silence of this old house, I hear the echo of my mother's plea. End the madness, John. Tonight, the nightmares will come. They always do in this place. But tomorrow, I'll uncover the truth. No matter what it takes. The attic door stands before me, locked and weathered with age. My hands tremble as I turn the key, the hinges groaning in protest. Dust motes dance in the stale air. And there in the dim light lies an old trunk covered in cobwebs. Her journals spoke of this trunk, of the horrors contained within. I open it to find more journals, cryptic symbols, and a family tree marked with the names of those who succumbed to the curse. At the bottom, an envelope, sealed and yellowed with time. Inside the envelope, a letter from my mother. She writes of a mysterious church and a ritual meant to control the shadows. A ritual she never completed. Her final words echo in my mind, "Find the church, uncover the truth." As I stand in the attic, shadows seem to move just beyond my sight. Whispers fill the air, and I realize this curse is more than just a figment of my mother's madness. It's real, and it's coming for me. I have no choice but to follow the clues, to confront whatever lies at the heart of this darkness. The shadows have already started to close in, and the only way out is through the truth. Gray Hollow holds many secrets, and the answers I seek are hidden within its depths. Tomorrow, I will search for the church, guided by my mother's desperate words. The journey into darkness begins, and with it, the hope of ending the Grayson curse once and for all. The townsfolk watch me with wary eyes as I walk the streets, their whispers following me like ghosts. At the library, Sarah helps me sift through old newspapers and records. We find an article about a night called the Gray Shadow Night, detailing a bizarre ritual and a series of unsolved disappearances. Sarah's voice trembles as she recalls my mother's final days, her descent into madness. She saw things, John. Things that drove her insane. Whatever you're looking for, it won't bring you peace. But peace is a distant dream. The shadows in my mind are growing darker, the lines between reality and nightmare blurring. The article mentions a church on the outskirts of town, now in ruins. That's where I'll go next, to uncover the truth behind this ritual. The sun sets as I make my way to the church, its silhouette haunting against the twilight sky. Inside, the air is thick with decay and forgotten prayers. I find old manuscripts and symbols that match those in my mother's journals. As I stand in the crumbling nave, a chill runs down my spine. The shadows here are alive, whispering of the past and the curse that binds my family. I know now that there's no turning back. The only way to end this is to face it head on, to confront the darkness within and without. The journey into the heart of the shadow begins, and with it, the hope that I can end this madness. For myself, for my mother, for the Graysons who came before. The shadows are closing in, and I must be ready. Sarah's words echo in my mind as I leave the church. Be careful, John. Some things are better left buried. But I can't bury the past. I can't ignore the darkness that follows me. I return to the house, the weight of the truth heavy on my shoulders. The attic, the journals, the church, each piece of the puzzle leading me deeper into the shadows. I hear my mother's voice, a whisper in the night. End the madness, John. I sit at the old desk, the shadows creeping closer, the silence of the house deafening. Tomorrow, I will confront whatever lies at the heart of this curse. I will face the darkness and the shadows that have haunted my family for generations. The attic door stands ajar, the darkness within beckoning. The shadows whisper my name, and I know that the journey is far from over. The truth is out there, waiting to be uncovered, and I will find it, no matter the cost. The shadows are closing in, and the madness is just beginning. The night was restless, filled with dark whispers and fleeting shadows. I barely slept, haunted by dreams of my mother, of the attic, of the shadows that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. When morning came, I knew there was no turning back. The answers were out there, hidden in the remnants of a forgotten church, buried in the silence of Gray Hollow. The church was a husk of its former self, a decaying monument to forgotten faith. As I stepped through the shattered doors, the air grew thick with the scent of mold and decay. My flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the crumbling walls. I found a hidden alcove behind the altar, filled with ancient texts and cryptic symbols. They matched those in my mother's journals, speaking of a ritual meant to bind the shadows. The more I read, the more I realized how dangerous this ritual was. It required a sacrifice, a toll that none of my ancestors had been willing or able to pay. As I pieced together the fragments of the ritual, the shadows seemed to grow bolder, their whispers more insistent. They spoke of hunger, of a desire to consume. My heart pounded as I realized the full extent of the curse. The shadows were not just a metaphor for our family's madness. They were real, and they were hungry. Sarah was waiting for me when I returned to town. Her face was pale, eyes wide with fear. John, you need to stop this. The church, the shadows. They're not just stories, they're real, and they're dangerous. I showed her the texts, the symbols, the fragments of the ritual. I need to do this, Sarah. If I don't, the curse will never end. Her eyes filled with tears as she shook her head. You're playing with forces you don't understand. My grandmother spoke of this ritual. It's not about ending the curse, it's about feeding it. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Feeding the curse. Could it be that every attempt to break free had only made it stronger? I had to know more. Had to find the missing pieces. But time was running out, and the shadows were closing in. Back at the house, the air felt heavier, the shadows darker. I pored over the texts, searching for a way to break the cycle without feeding the curse. The answers were elusive, buried in layers of myth and madness. I found myself drawn to the attic again, the place where my mother had spent her final days. The shadows there seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, whispering secrets in a language I could almost understand. As I climbed the stairs, my mind raced with possibilities. What if Sarah was right? What if the ritual was a trap, a way to bind me to the curse forever? But there was no turning back now. The shadows had claimed too much already, and I was determined to end it, one way or another. In the attic, I found more journals, more symbols. My mother's voice seemed to echo in the silence. "End the madness, John." The shadows danced at the edge of my vision, growing bolder with each passing moment. I knew that whatever lay ahead, it would test me to my very core. I prepared the ritual space, following the instructions to the letter. As I did, the house seemed to come alive, the walls pulsating with a dark energy. The shadows gathered around me, their whispers turning into a cacophony of voices. I steeled myself, ready to face whatever came next. The attic was suffused with a cold, otherworldly light as I began the ritual. The shadows closed in, their presence suffocating. I chanted the words from the texts, feeling a strange energy course through me. The air grew thick with anticipation, and I could sense the shadows waiting, hungry. As I completed the first part of the ritual, the shadows recoiled, hissing in anger. The texts spoke of a sacrifice, a binding that would trap the darkness. But they didn't say what the sacrifice had to be. My heart pounded as I realized the truth. The sacrifice was not just a symbolic gesture. It was real, and it required a life. My mother's voice echoed in my mind, a desperate plea. "End the madness, John." I knew what she had tried to do, why she had failed. She couldn't bring herself to complete the ritual. She couldn't make the ultimate sacrifice. The shadows surged around me, their whispers turning into a roar. I felt their hunger, their desire to consume. I had to choose to feed the curse or find another way. The weight of generations pressed down on me, and I knew that whatever I decided would shape the fate of the Grayson line forever. The moment of decision loomed before me. The shadows pressed in, their whispers a cacophony of hunger and despair. I could feel their cold touch, their insidious presence trying to break me. But I wouldn't give in. I couldn't. I reached deep within myself, drawing on the strength of my ancestors, on the love and pain that had shaped our family. The ritual wasn't about feeding the curse. It was about confronting it, about facing the darkness within and without. I altered the ritual, changing the words, the symbols. I poured my own energy into it, my own will. The shadows screamed in fury, their forms twisting and writhing. The attic shook, the air crackling with energy. And then, with a final surge of strength, I completed the ritual. The shadows recoiled, their forms dissipating into the air. The house fell silent, the oppressive weight lifting. I collapsed, exhausted but triumphant. The morning light filtered through the attic window, casting a warm glow on the dust and debris. I could feel the change in the air, the absence of the shadows. The curse was broken, or at least weakened. The Grayson family would no longer be haunted by the darkness of our past. I knew that this was only the beginning. The shadows had been pushed back, but they were not gone. I would spend my life ensuring that they never returned, that the madness would never claim another Grayson. As I walked out of the house, the sun rising over Gray Hollow, I felt a sense of peace. The journey was far from over, but I was ready to face whatever came next, with the strength of my ancestors and the hope of a new dawn. The shadows were gone for now, but their whispers would always be a reminder, a caution. The curse was broken, but the legacy remained, and I would carry it forward into the light. The morning light filtered through the attic window, casting a warm glow on the dust and debris. I could feel the change in the air, the absence of the shadows. The curse was broken, or at least weakened. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The shadows had been pushed back, but they were not gone. The house felt different, lighter somehow. Yet the silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the whispers that had filled these walls. As I walked through the rooms, memories flooded back, both good and bad. My mother's voice still echoed in my mind. "End the madness, John." I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching, waiting. The ritual may have weakened the curse, but it hadn't eradicated it. There were still unanswered questions, lingering doubts. I needed to know more about the shadows and their true nature. Sarah agreed to meet me at the diner, a neutral ground away from the oppressive atmosphere of my house. She looked tired, the weight of her own fears evident in her eyes. She spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. "John, did it work? Are the shadows gone?" I shook my head. "Not entirely. The ritual weakened them, but they're not gone. I need to find out more, Sarah. There has to be another way to end this for good." She sighed. "There's one place we haven't looked, my grandmother's old house. She kept records of everything related to the church and the curse. Maybe there's something there that can help." Sarah's grandmother's house stood on the edge of town, shrouded in overgrown foliage and a sense of abandonment. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of old books. We carefully made our way to the attic, the place where her grandmother had kept her most secretive documents. The attic was a treasure trove of ancient texts, handwritten notes, and cryptic symbols. We sifted through the materials, looking for anything that could provide a clue. Sarah found an old diary, the pages filled with accounts of rituals and encounters with the shadows. One entry stood out, detailing a hidden chamber beneath the church, a place where the source of the shadow's power was supposedly kept. It mentioned a guardian, a dark entity that protected the chamber from intruders. If we were to end the curse, we would need to confront this guardian and destroy the source. We spent the next few days preparing for the confrontation. Sarah and I gathered supplies, studying her grandmother's notes on how to weaken the guardian. The more we learned, the more dangerous our mission seemed, but there was no turning back. The shadows grew restless, their whispers returning with a renewed intensity. They knew what we were planning, and they were determined to stop us. Each night, the nightmares became more vivid, more terrifying. The guardian's presence loomed over us, a constant reminder of the battle ahead. The night of the confrontation arrived. Sarah and I made our way back to the church, the air heavy with anticipation. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with a malevolent energy, the shadows more tangible than ever. We found the hidden entrance to the chamber beneath the altar, a narrow staircase leading into the depths of the earth. As we descended, the air grew colder, the darkness more oppressive. At the bottom, a massive door stood before us, adorned with the same cryptic symbols we had seen in the texts. Sarah and I exchanged a glance, steeling ourselves for what lay beyond. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open, revealing the chamber within. The source of the shadow's power pulsed with a dark energy, and in front of it stood the guardian, a towering figure shrouded in darkness. The guardian's eyes glowed with a sinister light, and its presence filled the chamber with an overwhelming sense of dread. The battle that followed was a blur of fear and desperation. We used everything we had learned, every bit of strength we could muster. The guardian was powerful, but so were we. With Sarah's help, we managed to weaken it, driving it back towards the source of the shadow's power. The final blow was a combined effort, a surge of willpower that shattered the dark energy at its core. The chamber erupted in light, the shadows screaming as they were torn apart. When the light faded, the guardian was gone, and the source of the shadow's power lay in ruins. We had done it. The curse was broken, truly broken this time. As we emerged from the church, the first rays of dawn pierced the horizon, a symbol of new beginnings. The journey had been harrowing, but we had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. The Grayson curse was no more. But deep down, I knew our story wasn't over. The shadows had been defeated, but their memory would linger. There were still questions, still mysteries to uncover, and I would be ready, whatever came next. The dawn of a new day brought hope, but also a reminder of the darkness we had conquered. The next chapter of our lives awaited, filled with the promise of peace and the ever-present caution of the shadow's legacy. And so, our journey continued into the light.